Hello, this is Rachel Cunningham, and you're listening to Joyful Love, episode 60. If you're ready to bring joy and connection back to your marriage, stick around. Each week, I give you the tools to up-level your thinking, open your heart, and bring joy and fun back to your relationship. Because it's not enough just to stay married. We want to love being married. So, today's topic is I hope it's going to be a challenge for you, and I also hope it's going to light a fire under you because it's something that really changed my world when I started really questioning this. So here it is. We're going to talk today about how we tend to waste a lot of time trying to change our problems. Trying to change problems that actually aren't problems. And as we're trying to change all these problems that are not actually problems, it's robbing us of joy and connection with our loved ones. So my favorite question to ask myself lately, over the last few years, when my brain wants to make something a problem, is, what if this isn't actually a problem? What if this isn't a problem at all? Now, I'll be the first to admit, this does not work 100% of the time. But I'm going to guess like over 50% of the time, when I ask this question, it really brings immense clarity and helps me to drop the drama that my brain has about a certain circumstance or a person. So asking myself, what if this is not a problem? That question helps me to laser focus on the here and now instead of being annoyed with the present, right? Whatever that present circumstance or human being in front of me is, or instead of worrying about the future. It just helps me to laser focus on the here and now, right? What if right now is not a problem? It helps me to quickly come to a decision of what the next best step is, right? So if you pause and say, okay, wait a second, what if this isn't a problem? It helps you gain immense clarity of, okay, what do I want right now? What's the next best step for that, right? Let me give you an example from my own life. I'm actually going to give you a few examples today from my own life because I am my own best client. You guys, everything I teach are things that I have had to implement in my own life. So using my examples is something that I often try to do. This one question, what if this is not a problem, changed my life and how I relate with my husband. If you've been following me for a while, you know that my personality, who I am, I really like my alone time. Like, I like my alone time so much that for a while I wondered how I could ever actually enjoy marriage, even though I loved my husband tremendously, right? There was so much cognitive dissonance in my head. I love him. I want to stay with him. But oh my God, I can't stand being married all the time because I love alone time, right? So since I had such a great need for independence and alone time to, I could do anything alone. I could think and write forever, and I can process all my feelings and all the things, right? Since I had such a great need for that, did that mean that I should just be single to fulfill that desire? That's another question that I would ask myself. This is where my brain would take me. Because of my personality, I should just be single. That's what I thought all the time. So when my husband worked from out of town occasionally, I was thrilled about it. I was so happy. I was like, oh, yay, he has a week that he's working from out of town, right? I had friends who dreaded when their partners would leave town. And I was so baffled by that. I was like, wait a second, like, why are you not happy that he's leaving town? Because when mine left, my mind was free. It was free to be alone and free to be inspired, free to be creative, right? Before I had a business to run, I would use those times when he worked out of town to redesign a room. I would use it to paint a couple rooms. I would rearrange furniture. I would listen to music as loud as I possibly could. I'd organize the garage to perfection in one day. all while feeling like this incredible joy because I wasn't being interrupted. And I could think and be inspired all at the same time as being productive, right? I work well alone. I just do. So I enjoyed having the opportunity to do so. But could I just leave it at that? Could I just enjoy the fact that I loved being alone and that I had the opportunity to do so at times? No, of course not. Could I see it as a blessing that Chris worked out of town sometimes? No, of course not. My brain had to make it a problem. If it wanted to make it mean something negative, right? So when I noticed myself being very productive and feeling inspired and joyful when I was alone, my brain told me that a woman who is in love with her husband shouldn't feel so glad when he's out of town. It told me that I should miss him. When my brain told me I should miss him and I shouldn't like being alone so much, I felt guilty. I felt guilty for not remembering to call him when he was gone. I felt guilty for not really wanting to talk that long when he called me. And I even felt guilty for feeling such inspiration and joy when he was gone. Even just saying that right now, like, sounds so awful, right? Of course I felt guilty looking at it this way. But it didn't just stop at guilt. It never does, because when we feel guilt, we don't want to. So we try to resist it and avoid it. So since I didn't want to feel guilty, I switched it. I sneakily switched it to blame, right? Like thoughts like, if he were different, then I could feel more joy and inspiration when he was around. If he were different, then I could get just as much done when he is home. Instead of taking responsibility for what I wanted, I shifted the blame and made him responsible. And then I would just pile on the criticism. It would go back and forth on to me, like something's wrong with me, something's wrong with my personality, right? Something's wrong with him, right? And then the disempowering questions would creep in. Questions that took my power away. Like, why am I like this? I would make it mean something negative about myself. And then why is he like this? I'd make it mean something negative about him, right? Questioning our worth. Anytime like we have those disempowering questions that question our worth and question our lovability as humans, like that is your warning sign. Something is amiss here, and we need to like really watch our thoughts, right? Watch those disempowering questions that we're asking ourselves, because they're not going to get us anywhere closer to connection, which is what we want. So I took these incredible opportunities to have alone time, which I love, and I used it against both of us. My brain was making something a problem that wasn't actually a problem. I just had a day recently like this. Chris and my 20-year-old son, Milo, left town last weekend to do some house shopping for Milo in Atlanta, Georgia, where Milo is moving. And I've been healing from this cold, so I gave myself permission to just rest all day long. I was like, Rachel, you don't have to do anything today. Everyone's gone. All you have to do is rest. So I stayed in bed for half a day. And then, like normal, when I'm alone, I felt inspired to get up and to start doing things. By the end of the day, I had so much I got so much done. I'm kind of thinking that I have superpowers when everyone's gone. I don't know. I got the entire house clean. I recorded a podcast. I wrote some emails. I ordered groceries, and I hung out with my youngest son for a couple hours. I got so much done that day. And at the end of the day, instead of just simply leaving it as being proud of myself for resting half the day and getting a lot done the rest of the day, I noticed a sneaky little thought pop in my head. It was a very innocent seeming thought, but if not caught, it would have taken me down a rabbit trail full of frustration and total disconnection with Chris. The thought was this: I wish I could get this much done when Chris was home. There it was. I wish I could get this much done when Chris was home. It seems so innocent, right? But I caught it so freaking fast this time. I told my brain, no, actually, I don't wish that. If I could get that much done when he was home, I would never stop working, you guys. I would forget to have fun. I wouldn't make time to dance in the kitchen with him. I wouldn't stop to listen to him tell me about his day. I wouldn't be available to relate with him. I wouldn't take walks with him in the morning. I'd be so laser focused on being productive all the time. Right? So catching the thoughts in your brain, even those little innocent ones that are just like, oh, I wish this were different. Catching those thoughts in your brain allows you to see the truth. What is the truth in my situation? The truth is I don't want to be that productive when he's home. I want his interruptions. I want him to talk to me. I want him. And if that means I'm less productive when he's around, I accept that reality. I don't need to fight it. I don't need to make it a problem. I don't need to make something a problem that is not a problem, right? But our brains, they really like to do that. They like to say, oh, what's negative here? Let's look at that, right? For most of our married life, we've both worked from home for at least the last 17 years. For the last 17 years, we have both done most of our work from home. And I used to really kind of dwell on, I heavily dwelt on that this was a problem, that he worked from home with me, right? When I realized it wasn't a problem, but it was actually a good thing, I stopped trying to make both of us something that we weren't. I stopped trying to change him and the way he did things. I stopped trying to change my own soul's desires to be alone. And instead, I embraced it. I didn't ignore it. I embraced it. When I stopped making something that I couldn't change a problem, I was able to embrace my true nature and say, okay, how do I make this work for me, right? When you stop asking yourself disempowering questions like why me or what's wrong with us, your mind is open to empowering questions. So I started asking myself, I started admitting, okay, I love the way I feel free and joyful when Chris is gone. How can I take the responsibility to bring more of that into my life when he is here? And I got to work. I got to work creating alone time for myself on a regular basis so that the only time I felt, that joy and freedom and peace of being alone and the fulfilling the need of alone time for myself wasn't just when he left town, right? I got to work being fully present with Chris when he was home so that I enjoyed his company instead of avoiding his company. And I thoroughly embrace and enjoy my times of extended alone times, free of guilt, free of criticism. It's not a problem that my personality likes alone time. I can accept that and embrace it. It's also not a problem that Chris does not like alone time as much. He likes very little alone time. He's a people person. He wants to be around me specifically, a lot. When he's alone, he likes to check in with me more than I like to check in with him. Neither is a problem when we totally accept each other and see the beauty in each other's differences. I would easily guess that half of what our brain wants to make a problem is actually not a problem. There's a very real problem that actually does need to be dealt with on the regular, though. And that problem is that our brains want to make everything a problem. And to fix this, we must bring awareness to what our brains are thinking, right? We must notice and catch those sneaky little thoughts that are adding drama where there doesn't need to be drama. Be on to your brain. It likes to whine a lot. It likes to find all the thoughts that drive a wedge between you and your partner and create disconnection. It thinks it's protecting you. In most cases, it is not. What if many of these circumstances are not a problem, but are actually beneficial for you? What if many of them are not against you in any way? When I stopped thinking it was a problem that I thoroughly enjoyed alone time, and when I stopped thinking that it was a problem that Chris worked from home too, I started really opening my eyes to the beauty of it all. I started living in the moment with him more. I engaged with him on a deeper level. And I chose to lean into my desire for alone time and to take responsibility to create it for myself on a regular basis. Now I have that alone time every day, right? When I was able to just go, hey, wait, I'm just a person that likes alone time. I need to create that for myself every day. I took responsibility to do that instead of shifting blame and criticizing and all of those things that are not helpful, right? And I started being grateful for Chris. I started seeing the beauty in who he was and the beauty in our differences and how we can work together because of our differences. So next time your brain offers you a big story that you have this huge problem, simply ask yourself, how is this not a problem right now? If it's not a problem, how can it be used for me? How can I use it to build connection? And is there something I can learn from it? When you slow your thoughts down and be aware of the ones that are holding you back from growth, you're going to start opening up to what you really want. You'll stop spinning in confusion and trying to change things that maybe, just maybe, don't need changed. And then you're going to have so much more time and energy to focus on what does need changed. You can apply this to anything, you guys. When you feel urgency or tension in your body about a circumstance or person, when you feel the need to escape your situation, right? And I'm not talking about like actual danger here, but like, someone's just talking to you and you're like, oh, I gotta escape, right? Or I'm so annoyed by the way they're talking, or by the way they're doing that, by the way they're sweeping the floor, whatever it is, right? When you feel the need to escape, or when you feel that tension in your body, let yourself feel it, breathe in, and ask yourself that simple question: what if this isn't a problem? You'll be presented with this a lot. Just earlier, while I was working and trying to focus for an hour, I was like, how you have those hour of chunk times just set up so that you can just focus, not be distracted or anything. Those are usually the times when somebody interrupts you, right? So this happened to me earlier, and my son came in and needed help with fixing his telephone service. So I immediately felt urgency in my body to help him, and yet to keep focused in my hour of focus time. That urgency in my body was my cue to pay attention to. I immediately noticed it, and I reminded myself, wait a second, this is not a problem. My son comes to me when he needs help. That's a beautiful thing, right? He needs my help, and I actually want to give him help. I have plenty of time today to extend my own focus time, so that's not a problem. So, why am I making it a problem? So I stopped for 15 minutes and I helped him, and then I got back to work, right? So many times we want to make problems where there are not problems. Another one is I walked over my floor today and I was like, oh my gosh, that needs swept. And I noticed the urgency in my body, right? That tension and that desire to do it immediately. And I was like, wait a second, the fact that the floor needs swept is not a problem. It's a 10-minute job that I can check off now or later. I get to choose, right? This is not a problem. I don't have to feel tension and stress in my body when I notice things. And, we're gonna be presented with this. And the more you practice catching yourself, the quicker you're gonna help yourself to calm down. You see my point, right? I could go on and on and on and tell you so many circumstances that I've had in just like the last 24 hours where my brain wants to make it a problem. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. This is actually not a problem. And when we believe our brains, we walk around with anxiety and we're not able to focus on the actual change we do need. So here's your challenge this week. Just notice how many things your brain wants to catastrophize that are not a problem. Notice how much joy you can create in your life when you stop wishing things would change that you don't need to change. That's what I've got for you all today. But I do want to end this episode with something that one of my clients told me this week, and I'm carrying it with me this week because it's so important. Coaching is important. Coaching helps people change their lives. She sent me a little love note and told me, she said, there are so many times every day that what I've learned in our sessions together makes our lives so much better. And I just as soon as I read it, I was I put my hand on my heart and I was I'm so grateful for this work. Not only for myself of what's changed in my life, but for the results that my clients are getting every day, right? These kind of random little client love notes lights a fire in me to keep going with this work. So I want you to know that you don't have to do this alone. I can help you. I can help you watch your brain when it gets stuck on repeat. I can help you see yourself and your partner from a loving, compassionate, and even thrilling perspective. I'll help you know how to ask for what you want in life. When you coach with me, your communication is going to improve, your peace and your joy will increase. You'll stop being frustrated and annoyed so much. You'll be able to set healthy boundaries. You'll stop the habits that are holding you back from achieving your goals. You'll implement and stick to habits that will help you to feel your best, and therefore you're going to have the energy to actually want to love your partner more, which I know that's why you're all here, right? You are all here to build connection and to build that love and to deal with the things that actually do need to be dealt with in your marriage, right? You're going to heal your sex life and start having fun in intimacy again. That is a huge one, right? I know so many of you want to heal that part of your life as well. These are just some of the results that my clients get, and I want to help you do the same. So there is no better time than right now to start living the life that you want and to start creating a marriage that actually feels really good to be in. So you are ready. Book a call with me at rachelcunningham.com/workwithme, and we can get started next week. All right. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to Joyful Love. If you'd like to know more about my work, come visit me at rachelcunningham.com. That's Rachel spelled with an AEL, Cunningham.com.